Taoiseach, yesterday in the Irish Independent, there was a revelation in terms of the Minister Mary Micheál O'Connor proposing that there would be a special 30% tax rate for Irish graduates abroad who would be returning to Ireland. Her spokesman has essentially confirmed as much this morning in his comments in response to the story. I think it beggars belief that such a proposal could be put forward by the Minister for Enterprise, given the discriminatory nature of the proposal itself. In essence, anybody who stayed with it in Ireland, who committed to a house or mortgage, who were a graduate and who stayed apace here, would be paying up to 50% marginal rate over 33,500, whereas somebody coming back would only be paying an effective rate of 30%. Now, obviously, you couldn't restrict that just to Irish graduates. Presumably, it would apply to European graduates, which would mean that Europeans in the same IT desk or in the same place of employment would be at a 30% tax rate, whereas the person who graduated in Ireland, worked in Ireland, stayed in Ireland, would be at about 50%. Now, Taoiseach, I would ask you if you would confirm that that proposal is not going to proceed, because I think it makes absolutely no sense. It is very discriminatory. It talks about over 75,000, anyone earning over 75. Clearly, construction workers need not apply, and people under that need not apply. It's discriminatory in that manner as well. Do you accept that such a proposal would be discriminatory and unfair? And can you confirm to the House that we're not going to see it realised in the forthcoming budget? As one graduate said to me yesterday, you know, there's people on the government side and sources have been questioning calls for investment in education, have been questioning calls for investment in childcare. That's ultimately the most effective way, in my view, to deal with our long-term issues and medium to long-term issues in terms of a skilled workforce. We do need to invest in those areas, not to have the resources spent in such a discriminatory manner with dubious outcomes in terms of the objective. So, in other words, you know, it would make far greater sense that such resources would be allocated to third-level education to prevent the decline in world rankings that's occurring right now, and also in terms of the absolute need to give additional supports to childcare providers and to the childcare sector, which is labouring under huge strain at the moment. And there are many graduates in the childcare sector, Taoiseach, who are close to the minimum wage and in dire straits. So I think it's a question of priorities, and the Minister needs to sort out our priorities in that regard.
Thank you very much, Taoiseach.
Thanks, Deputy. Well, obviously, the matter that you raise, were it to be dealt with, would be one in respect of a budgetary position, and no decisions have been made at all. The question that you raise would be one that would be dealt with as part of the budget and financial implications, and I can confirm to you that no decisions have been made about any of these. What we want to do here, as you know yourself, is to have a budget presented in as fair a situation as possible. Now, we have over 2 million people working in the country, which is, I think, the highest since about 2009, and that's important. The economy is improving, still a long way to go. But it's important that, in the sense of fairness, you introduced paternity leave, which is now applicable since September. The second free preschool year is in operation for everybody. And immigrants are coming home. And it's important that we therefore deal through the housing situation with supply of housing that will provide for opportunities for people to get good housing at affordable prices. Clearly, we've had people quite rightly raise the questions here of difference in financial treatment for recruit Gardaí, young nurses, teachers, and so on. And these things are all being ironed out. So I see lots of things being put forward now in the context of the budget. I can confirm to you that the figures haven't changed, Deputy Martin. There's about £1 billion here, 2 to 1 between public services and taxation issues, and there have been no decisions made by Cabinet. Clearly, there are emigrants returning from America and from Australia and other countries to Ireland because they see opportunities. And what we want to do is to continue to have the country recognised as an attractive location for investment. We are #1 in the world for skilled labour. We've climbed up 9 places in terms of competitiveness. We still have a long way to go in terms of educational facilities for everybody, to give everybody the best opportunity. You raised one yesterday, obviously implications further down at second level and primary schooling. So the question that you raise of different rates of taxation applying here is not one that has been considered by Cabinet. Obviously every minister, every department puts forward their own view. We've had specialist people come back to Ireland over the years with very specific skills, and that's always been important in the sense of particular kinds of industry. So what you raise is a budgetary matter, and I can confirm to you that no decisions have been made by Cabinet or presented by ministers at this stage.
Thank you, Taoiseach. Deputy Martin.
In fairness to you, you have developed a skill well honed over the years for answering questions, but not the question that you were asked. And essentially, I think it's accepted that Minister Micheál Martin has made this proposal. Nobody is denying it. You haven't denied it. Indeed, the Minister's spokesperson this morning essentially confirmed it. The question is, do you actually think such a proposal is fair? Do you not accept that such a proposal is discriminatory against people who graduated in Ireland and who worked in Ireland? Deputy Minister Flanagan is nodding. Can you enlighten us, Minister Flanagan, on something? I don't. You know, as far as I'm concerned, there's a lot of anger out there at how such an out-of-touch proposal could get to the stage where a minister essentially announces it to all intents and purposes and believes it's a fantastic idea and not thinking it through in terms of either the legality of it, the absolute discriminatory nature of it. I mean, there are many Irish graduates think, who came up with this bananas idea?
Thank you, Deputy.
And are making the point that anyone who stayed in Ireland would effectively be punished by such a proposal. Would effectively be punished because you hung around.
All right, thanks, Deputy.
So, Taoiseach, what I'm asking you is this: would you accept that such a proposal, such a proposal, as I've described it, unfair and discriminatory to Irish graduates here in Ireland? Yes or no? Do you accept that it would be?
Taoiseach.
Yes, I do. If somebody comes back from London to work in Plant Exxon Park, if somebody comes back, if somebody's been away, if somebody's been away in London or New York or America or wherever, and they come back and they're working in the same facility as somebody else and they're paying a different rate of tax simply because they've come back, I would regard that as being unfair and being discriminatory, of course. But, like, see, back in 2010, the government of which you belong to yourself, abolished the incremental credit for the 36-week clinical placement undertaken by fourth-year student nurses. That was discriminatory. And that was unfair. But that's because of economic pressure at the time. We're now trying to adjust that, and the Minister met with him yesterday. So, like, I see all kinds of proposals being put forward now. What we want to do is, with the limited resources we have, being in a better position, is to do it with a sense of fairness. If you deal with one element of social protection and you don't deal with another, is that discriminatory? Is that fair? We don't have the resources to deal with all the claims that are coming in. So what we've got to do is to try to be as fair as possible with what we have.
Thank you, Taoiseach.